This short video was produced by the Delaware Network for Excellence in Autism team at the University of Delaware Center for Disability Studies. This tutorial has been designed to support professionals and family members who wish to teach a person with autism a new skill or task. This evidence-based practice is appropriate to use across multiple settings. Please use the following reference citation guidelines when referencing this tutorial. Today we are going to be discussing the evidence-based practice of prompting. Prompting is an antecedent-based strategy and is delivered in conjunction with the cue in order to elicit the desired target behavior so it may be reinforced and learned over time. Prompting is fated over time, so a natural pairing occurs between the cue and the target behavior or skill. When prompting, there are several procedures that you must follow. First, you will want to identify the target skill or behavior as being either discrete or chained. You will want to operationally define the target or skill behavior. If it is a chain task, you must write the task analysis and determine the chaining procedure to use. If you want to learn more about chaining procedures, check out the DNA tutorial on task analysis and chaining. Next, you will want to select the prompting procedure you will use as well as any reinforcers or permanent supports that may be needed. Don't forget to collect data so you may measure the efficacy of your intervention and measure the individual's learning over time. If you want to learn more about this process, we encourage you to review our Introduction to Prompting tutorial. This tutorial will focus on the prompting procedure you can use when teaching a new skill. There are 6 different types of prompting procedures. Today, we are going to focus on most to least prompting. Most to least prompting can be used to teach both discrete or chained skills. When using most to least prompting, 3 levels of prompts are selected from the prompting hierarchy and sequenced from most to least intrusive. The first prompt is called a controlling prompt. A controlling prompt is guaranteed to elicit a correct response. Over time, prompts are systematically faded as the individual becomes more and more independent at performing the skill until the individual is able to perform the skill independently. Before teaching, you will want to select your 3 prompts that can be used to effectively teach the skill. Sequence them from most to least intrusive. That is, sequence them from the prompt that will provide the most assistance to that which will provide the least assistance. Then, you will define a procedure for fading these prompts over time. That is, you should define how many times the individual will perform the skill correctly with that level of prompting before introducing a less intrusive prompt. It is also important to consider a procedure for returning to more intrusive prompts if needed. This may occur when you are fading a prompt and the individual begins to respond incorrectly. To begin teaching, you begin by delivering the cue and waiting the predetermined latency. A latency is how long you will wait for a response. If the individual responds correctly, you will state what the individual did correctly and provide reinforcement. However, if the individual responds incorrectly or not at all, you should interrupt the incorrect response and provide the level of prompt that you are currently using. Don't forget to provide reinforcement. Here is our most to least prompting hierarchy flowchart. You can see on the left that it begins with delivering the cue and waiting the predetermined latency. If the individual delivers a correct response, you will reinforce and state what the individual did correctly. If you are recording data, you will record a plus sign on your data collection sheet. This indicates that the individual performed the skill correctly without any prompts. If the individual responds incorrectly or they do not respond before the latency expires, you will interrupt the incorrect response and begin to deliver the level of prompting you are currently using. Then, wait the latency for the individual to respond to the prompt. If they respond correctly, reinforce and state what was done correctly. If collecting data, you will record on your data sheet the level of prompt and a plus sign. This indicates that the individual responded correctly to your prompt. If the individual responds incorrectly, or if no response is given, record the prompt you used and a minus sign on your data sheet. Once the person responds correctly to a given prompt over several sessions, You can fade to the next level of prompting following the procedure that you define during the planning phase. Typically, this is a certain percentage of correct responses with the prompt over a defined number of sessions. You may need to reintroduce a more intensive prompt if the person has too many incorrect responses. If you want more details on how to plan and use most to least prompting, check out our resource guide. Let's look at using most to least prompting to help Mary to put a dish away in the sink. To begin, you will deliver the cue by saying, "Put your dish in the sink." Then you will wait 3 seconds, or the latency, for Mary to respond to the cue. If Mary puts the dish in the sink, you will reinforce by saying, "Thanks, Mary, that was really helpful." If Mary responds incorrectly, such as putting the dish on the counter, you will interrupt and begin to deliver the level of prompting that you are currently using. In this case, you would use hand-over-hand assistance to guide the plate into the sink. You would then wait another 3 seconds for Mary to respond to the hand-over-hand assistance. If Mary responds correctly by placing the dish in the sink, you will reinforce by saying, "Thanks, Mary, for putting your dish in the sink." Most to least prompting is helpful because it prevents errors in skills that could be risky, such as crossing a street or learning to cut with a knife. It can also be helpful to prevent errors when you have an individual who might be too quick to respond or who is likely to be non-responsive to a less intrusive prompt. The most important thing to remember when using a most to least prompting is to implement a plan for fading the prompts over time. Most to least prompting is not self-fading. You will need to define a plan for fading the prompt and monitoring the individual's learning over time. The DNEA helps the community stay informed by developing and distributing information and resources on issues that impact people with autism, their families, and the professionals who serve them. For additional resource guides, videos, and glossary of terms, please visit our website. Professionals are encouraged to visit our website or contact us for additional resources and support.